Pak Bus. Tes, cek, kedengeran, 1, 2, 3. Halo, halo, cek, 1, 2. Tes, masuk, udah masuk, belum? Oke.
Tes, kedengeran nggak? Tes.
(2021). The year Bali tourism stopped.
Tes.
70% of the population of Bali depend on tourism. Bali has been devastated. But Bali believe tomorrow will be better.
Rumah Sakit Bali Mandara Provinsi Bali menjadi tempat lokasi kegiatan vaksinasi pertama di Bali.
Balinese cross arms for stronger economic recovery. Bali's COVID-19 vaccination rate is one of the fastest and highest in Indonesia. The first dose reached 106%. The second dose reached 97%. And the booster reached over 80%. Balinese thank for the vaccines received from multilateral cooperation that helps Balinese to start reopening Bali. (2022). The year Bali reopened. Bali became the destination to discuss G20's agenda as a strong multilateral cooperation under Indonesia presidency. G20's events and activities has started to make its positive impact to Bali. Balinese started seeing a significant increase in their economic activities.
Om Swastiastu. Terima kasih G20.
Matur suksema G20.
Terima kasih G20. Terima kasih G20.
We are ready to welcome you all. We are hoping for your positive action to help us all recover.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, members of the media and journalists, good afternoon. Welcome to the closing press conference of the second and final G20 Health Ministers Meeting. We hope you're enjoying your stay here in beautiful Bali so far. Presiding with us, His Excellency Minister of Health of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Budi Gunadi Sadikin, and Director for Global Health and Technology Policy, Mr. Bonanza Taihitu, who are going to give us a brief summary of everything that has taken place and has led to this final pinnacle of the Health Ministers Meeting. It has been a year in the making, and it took dedication and effort from everybody involved. Without further ado, I will hand over the floor to Minister Budi. Please, Minister Budi, the floor is yours.
As we know, it has been a very challenging years for Indonesian presidency because of the war. And that created a tension in G20 members because while we have to discuss about technical issues, there is a realities on the political issues. despite our differences on the geopolitical issue, the G20 member states have come together to speak the same language, the language of humanity above all, the language of health that has no border, the language of strengthening our global health architecture, not only for our generations, but also for generation and generation after us. I'm therefore pleased that we have won the confidence of the room of the G20 members to implement actions mentioned in the technical documents that consist of many health-related actions to support our ideas in the nation initiative to strengthen the global health architecture. And these actions will be submitted for consideration during the G20 Leaders Summit in mid-November. So there are 6 key actions to be carried forward from the technical document. First is we have established the Joint Finance Health Task Force, and we call on all G20 countries to build a major concrete achievement in establishing the Pandemic Fund, previously known as the Financial Intermediary Fund on the Pandemic Prevention, Preparedness and Response. Second key actions. Following the completion of the Act A evaluation, G20 countries should continue to lead the shaping of successor entities and functions, formalize the Act A. So for the next pandemic, we are ready to have a formal, concrete arrangement how we can use the fund that is being made available in the pandemic fund. The third key actions, we have made progress on genomic surveillance, which should pave the way for continued attention and progress as a crucial part of pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. So we agree that this whole genome sequence lab in every country will work together as an early warning system, as a surveillance system. If there is any pathogen, whether it's virus, bacteria, or even parasite appears in every corner of the world, we can identify quickly and share the information to other countries as quickly as possible. The fourth key actions is related with the travel certificate system, which is digital based, that carries the information of vaccine and also testing that will benefit for further collaborations. This digital travel certificate will help us in the future pandemic. We don't restrict 100% of the movement of essential personnel. So if this essential personnel is very important to make sure the flow of emergency goods and services globally can still be done during the next pandemic. And we also have agreed that we will submit the enhancement of the international health regulations in the next World Health Assembly to include these revisions on digital travel certificate. Number 5, the key action number 5, there was an agreement to conduct a gap analysis and mapping of existing and emerging research and manufacturing networks. And this will be continued by the Indian presidency in G20. 7 countries, especially the southern members of G20, South Africa, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, India, Indonesia, Argentina, Brazil, have agreed that we establish a network to do research and manufacturing for vaccine therapeutic and diagnostic. The last key actions, number 6, we have seen concrete actions emerge from the side event of the G20 health agenda, which is call to action to increase funding to combat tuberculosis, a commitment to implement the One Health initiative, and the last call to action is to enhance improvement in capacity to prevent, detect, and respond to antimicrobial resistance. The Indonesian presidency will produce a chair summary that includes all G20 health ministers' actions to strengthen global health architecture with the outcomes of the side event document as the annexes. So I stop here and I'm open to question and answer.
Okay, thank you, Minister Budi. We will now start the question and answer session. As Since this press conference is in a hybrid setting, those who are joining us online, please write your questions and inquiries in the chat box and I will read them out for you. Okay, first we'll start with, please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, my name is Nufus from Xinhua. My first question is about call to actions for TB tuberculosis response. How's the importance of this issue to people in the world? And the second question is about the results of this today's meeting. What is the most challenging? How's the debate for this today's meeting until sampai semua negara sepakat gitu, Pak? Makasih.
The first one on tuberculosis. Tuberculosis, Indonesia ranked number 2 globally in terms of incident. And we realized that after so many years, we need to strengthen our surveillance systems. And discussion among tuberculosis practitioners, it is very, very clear that not only Indonesia, but India and China, we are the top 3 countries with tuberculosis incidents, are very serious to commit resources and attention from the government perspective to address these tuberculosis issues. On Indonesia's side, we would like to focus on surveillance. We expecting by the end of 2024 at least 90% of the 824,000 potential tuberculosis incident in the country we can identify by name and by address. So proper treatment can be given to them. Therefore, we need to expand our surveillance capacity aggressively in all healthcare facilities in the country. And if you ask me the second question, what are the most difficult point that we need to address? Basically, because this G20 event come at the same time as the big geopolitical event in Europe. So the discussions is not only about health, but also about geopolitical issues. So how the Indonesian government as the president of G20 can navigate between 2 polarized topics. One is health, one is geopolitics, is the most difficult journey that we have to pass for the last 2 days. So I have to thank the Indonesian team under Pak Bona that can navigate between these 2, extreme, and we can come out with a decent agreement that we still need to strengthen the global health architecture for the future generation.
Next question. Yes, please.
Selamat sore Pak Menteri, saya Eko dari Radio El Sinta, Pak. Mungkin bisa dijelaskan hasil pertemuan Minister Health, namun dalam bahasa Indonesia, secara singkat saja Pak. Kemudian pertanyaan saya yang terakhir, seperti apa persiapan dukungan dari Kementerian Kesehatan untuk pelaksanaan Leader Summit 15 dan 16 November. Terima kasih Pak.
Jadi memang outcome-nya adalah kita agree ada 6 key actions yang akan dilakukan tadi. Ya. Yang pertama dan sudah terjadi adalah pembentukan Pandemic Fund atau sebelumnya Financial Intermediary Fund. Ini merupakan pool of funding di mana 18 institution sudah komit untuk memberikan pendanaan agar dunia siap menghadapi future pandemics. Key actions yang kedua adalah bagaimana kita membicarakan the uses of fund. Jadi begitu uangnya udah masuk, kita ngomongin tadi kan penggalangan dananya. Sekarang yang kita ngomongin yang nomor 2 adalah penggunaan dananya. Habis dananya digalang udah cukup nih, udah berapa puluh triliun itu kita mesti penggunaan dananya. Dan belajar dari pengalaman sebelumnya, pada saat pandemi terjadi, penggunaan dananya itu agak beribet juga ya karena banyak institusi, kita juga bingung siapa mesti melakukan apa, dan kita mau menggunakan contoh yang sebelumnya, di pandemi sebelumnya, agar kita jangan lagi bingung kalau nanti kejadian lagi kasus ini. Dan alhamdulillah kita belajar dari kondisi sebelumnya, ada satu format yang namanya Accelerator, di mana beberapa international organization itu bekerja bersama-sama untuk bisa menyusun bagaimana penggunaan dananya, terutama akses ke vaksin, alat-alat diagnostik, dan juga obat-obatan. Ya, kemarin itu agak timpang. Negara-negara maju bisa dapat akses dengan sangat baik, tapi negara-negara berkembangan tidak bisa dapat akses itu. Nah, itu yang akan dirapikan. Key actions yang ketiga adalah mengenai genomic surveillance. Jadi kalau virus ini terjadi lagi, dimanapun dia berada, kita sudah bisa membangun agreement di mana sharing dari informasi mengenai patogen ini, baik itu virus maupun bakteri atau parasit, bisa kita lakukan dengan lebih cepat dengan format yang sama. Action plan yang keempat adalah mengenai digital travel certificate. Jadi kalau orang mau pergi-pergi, kita dulu punya paspor, ya, itu secara legal. Tapi secara kesehatan, kita mau juga apakah orang ini sudah divaksin, apakah orang ini sudah dites, tesnya hasilnya baik apa enggak. Sehingga kalau nanti keluar pandemi berikutnya, misalnya monkeypox, atau ada camelpox, atau ada pigpox, apa segala macam gitu ya, kita bisa dengan cepat bilang, oh orang-orang ini sudah divaksin kok, dan sudah dites negatif, sehingga tidak menghambat pergerakan essential goods and services di dunia. Karena kalau itu terhambat, terutama itu berkaitan dengan pangan, dengan obat-obatan, dengan energi, kan itu akan menimbulkan masalah di luar masalah kesehatan lainnya. Yang kelima, kita setuju juga dengan action plan bahwa kita lihat yang namanya research and development dan kapasitas pabrikasi, manufacturing itu sangat berbeda antara negara utara dan negara-negara berkembang di selatan. Dan kita sadar bukan hanya bahwa secara etis kalau semuanya ada di utara saja itu tidak baik, karena ada isu pemerataan ya, tapi secara sains pun nggak benar, karena nggak mungkin ada satu negara yang bisa bersih dari pandemi sementara negara lain tidak. Otomatis negara yang tidak bersih akan menularkan kembali itu virusnya ke negara yang maju yang sudah bersih tadinya. Dan yang terakhir, kita juga agree ada side event, ada acara-acara lain di luar acara utama ya terkait dengan tuberkulosis. One Health itu artinya bagaimana kita mengintegrasikan antara kesehatan manusia dan kesehatan hewan gitu. Karena pengalaman kita hampir semua pandemi itu mulainya dari hewan, loncat ke manusia. Ini kan yang SARS-CoV-2 penyebab virus ini diduga loncatnya dari kelelawar. Dulu kita punya Asian flu diduga loncatnya dari burung. Dulu ada namanya pig flu juga loncatnya dari babi. Ya. Dulu ada penyakit yang namanya Black Death, loncatnya dari kutu yang ada di tikus. Jadi sebenarnya kalau kita bisa integrasi ini, semua pengawasan dilakukan sebelum masuk ke manusia, di hewan dulu aja. Mana bakteri virus yang punya kemungkinan untuk loncat, kita cari obatnya, diagnosanya, vaksinnya pada saat masih di hewan, itu akan jauh lebih mudah dan lebih cepat. Pada saat loncatan itu terjadi kita udah siap. Intinya seperti itu sih.
Oke, Minister.
Mengenai persiapan KTT, ini nanti akan kita summary-kan, kita akan berikan ke Ibu Menlu ya sebagai koordinator untuk acara leaders meeting, dan sebenarnya nanti Menteri Kesehatan dan Menteri Keuangan masih ada satu acara lagi, Joint Finance and Health Task Force, sebelum KTT itu terjadi langsung. Terima kasih.
Okay, Minister, we'll go to the questions asked virtually first. Wahyudi from Straits Times said congrats for all the outcome. There are two questions. First one is on global genomic sequencing. Is there any specific way agreed upon to ensure data sharing will be more accurate, timely, and representative? And the second one is, would you talk more on efforts towards establishing an ecosystem of VTD manufacturing and research? We know about the mRNA initiative in Argentina, Brazil, South Africa. What else do we have?
I will answer the second question first. So in this G20 meeting, 7 countries, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, India, Indonesia, Argentina, and Brazil has agreed that we will establish a network to share research and development and also manufacturing capabilities. Yes, now WHO has supported South Africa as the hub for mRNA vaccine. Argentina and Brazil has been supported by PAHO, it is South America WHO, also to produce mRNA vaccine. And as you know, India is working on their own, and Indonesia is also, we just established an mRNA vaccine manufacturer. So the mRNA vaccine initiative is already happened in several countries. Now with this cooperations, formal cooperation between G20 members, then we can link the expertise and the knowledge of those countries. And the first question is about what are the concrete action on genomic sequencing. We got an agreement that during the pandemic, we can share the data of genome sequencing. We will use the existing platform aggressively. Like now, the de facto platform for genomic sequencing is GIS-8. So we will supporting GIS-8, we will endorsing GIS-8. So every scientist in every country, if they find another pathogen that they know will expose dangerous potential threat to any countries, then we will use this GIS-8 platform to learn faster. And as you know, example of the monkeypox is already uploaded into GIS-8. We still have some potential virus outbreak, like example what I heard now, another Ebola outbreak is happening in Uganda, in Africa, with a different strain of virus. That is also will be a good test for us whether that information is quickly submitted into the central genome sequencing lab or not.
Thank you. Next will be from Kompas.
Okay. Good afternoon, Pak Menteri. Okay, I'm Intan from Kompas Daily Newspaper. I have 2 questions for you. First one, could you tell us how the discussion process from the meeting, so that the final result is chairman statement, not a communique, and what issues were difficult to agree on, so it should be continued in the next G20 presidency. And the second one, how can you ensure the commitment that put by G20 Indonesian presidency are sustainable and well implemented, especially for the implementation of global health protocol standards? Thank you.
Yes, it is a challenge, as I mentioned to you before, because of the geopolitical tensions. Then all ministerial meetings, we have to discuss not only about technical paragraph, but also geopolitical paragraph. There is a reason that until now, for every ministerial meeting, the outcome is a chairman's summary or chairman's statement, not declarations as or formal communique like what you mentioned. And we have 2 ministerial meetings left, the Health and Finance Ministers Meeting. So we would like to lobby as maximum as possible so we can get a concrete outcome. From my perspective, from the Indonesian perspective on the health sector, what important is whatever format of the outcome documents, as long as this format can be used to be referred by every country, has buy-in from every country and can be operationalized by every country. That is the objective, whatever the outcome document format. So again, how can this outcome can be referred by every country for the next action plan, whether this outcome document can be operationalized by every country when they would like to do follow-up. That is the objective. So the outcome documents in terms of chairman summary that we have, we'll have that. So we will have the technical topics, the technical health topics have been agreed by all G20 countries unanimously. And they also show a strong commitment to refer and to execute whatever we have in the technical health documents, which is the primary objective is to strengthen the global health architecture. They understand this and they fully support about this and they are fully committed to execute this. Yes, we have some members that would like to have a geopolitical statement, paragraph, outside of the technical paragraph, so that we put it into the chairman's statement also. But we have a very clear health technical documents that all of the members agree on this.
Okay, next we have C today, and then after that, Sydney Morning Herald.
Yes, good afternoon, Pak Budi. Thank you. First of all, congratulations for the second Health Ministerials meeting. My question would be, among the 6 points, 3 points talk more about the connected data, sharing data between different G20 countries as well as other organizations. So how do the health ministries as well as the international organization make sure that it didn't go into a murky territory about like more stricter surveillance, but how do they ensure to people that the data is still safe and it will only be used for the health purpose only? And my second question will be about the QR code that you have been mentioned. Is there any specific details or target that the G20 countries are trying to achieve, or whether it will be follow up during the in India next presidency? Thank you.
So the first one about the data, actually we have a great example that for the last 2 years we have used GIS8 as the most, used platform to sharing data. And this data in GIS8 is actually, transparent and open, can be accessed by every scientist in the world. The good thing about GIS8 is it doesn't have a particular reference into a single name, which is good. But on the other hand, for every users that access or submit the data, it will be recorded. So we know exactly who accessed this data and who is using this data for the next research program or products. That is a good thing about GIS8. And until now, we haven't heard any complaint about the security of data which is kept in GIS8. The second issue is about the digital certificate. We have agreed, and we are actually already submitting a formal letter to WHO to modify the international health regulations in the next World Health Assembly meeting next year. And this international health regulation is like law, like undang-undang. Global undang-undang dunia mengenai kesehatan. A global world law on health. So hopefully in the next World Health Assembly meeting, this will be accepted and the international health regulation will be modified to include this critical component on digital certificate.
Sydney Morning Herald.
My name is Amelia, thank you. Mr. Minister, you mentioned that on the opening statement that 19 countries have made their pledge for the fund. What country is not yet pledging the fund, if you can mention the name? And how close are you with the working mechanism? It mentioned somewhere that you are hoping for 2023 presidential G20 to actually establish a working mechanism. Can it be achieved? The problem seems to be because G20 itself is established as non-political, but it can't be set aside that the current geopolitical, like the war in Ukraine and Russia, is the cause of the high inflation, scarcity of the basic supplies. Are you sure that these countries will set aside their differences, their opposing opinions, to have a one health voice?
So, out of the 20 countries that haven't been pledging, what I noticed is one is Brazil, second is Russia, and I will double check. There are several countries, if I'm not mistaken, Saudi Arabia has not been committed, and there are other 2 countries out of 20. But it is still open, so it's not. It doesn't mean that they will not contribute. Yeah? Until now, the one that has been pledging is 19 country plus global institutions. So 19 is plus global institutions like Wellcome Trust, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations, Rockefeller Foundations. Those are the foundations that pledging money. So you are talking about the implementations. So we are very practical. Our health track is very practical in implementing. And whether there is a geopolitical tension or issue, we are still be very, very practical. And I can give you example, a clear example, the proof that we are very practical and we can execute whether or not there is a geopolitical issue. It's the establishment of the fifth of the pandemic fund. The initiations of this pandemic fund by the Indonesian government is after the war started. So even when the war started, we very focused on the health issues, and if we can execute, then we execute. And it is being seen that the fifth is being established and get agreement by all G20 members, even after the war. So as a practical person, I used to work in business before. So yes, we understand the political context, but if the substance about the technical health issue is very sound, we can lobby the G20 countries to accept this. And let's do something quickly about this one. It has been proven it works for the pandemic fund.
Okay, we have one more question, time for one more question left. This is from the Australian, Dian Septiari. The idea to have a pandemic fund has been raised since Italy's presidency last year that Indonesia has executed very well. Is there anything else in the health sector that Indonesia has worked on or proposed that could be further implemented by India as the next year's president? Have you talked with your Indian counterpart about it? As Indonesia's G20 presidencies is wrapping up in the next few weeks, what's your impression on Indonesia's turbulent presidency this year?
So first, when I joined as the Ministry of Health, I personally contact my colleague in Italy to listen to him what are the things that he believed need to be continued by the Indonesian presidency. And he clearly mentioned that the continuation on financial intermediary fund will be a good thing. And we execute and we close that issues. So working with India, we're also discussing what are the things that we need to continue by India. And actually, we are very close personally together, Ministry of Health of India and myself. And this morning, we have a meeting with him to discuss about what are the things that we would like them to continue. One of thing is the uses of fund. We established the pandemic fund, but we need to make sure that the fund is used to provide access to improve the health system, especially in developing countries, but also to be prepared. If the next pandemic happens, we have enough fund, you know, to be a catalyst and start the development of the new vaccine. So that is one thing. The second one is we need to keep improving the cooperations between genome sequencing lab globally. So that is also what we would like to be passed and continued by the Indian presidency. And the last one is the research and manufacturing hub globally. Those are the three things that we would like the Indian presidency to continue.
Thank you so much for your time, Minister Budi. As this comes to an end, I want to conclude this press conference by giving a very hearty gratitude from all of us. And thank you for all your participation, dedication, and combined effort for the greater good. I am very certain that this will lead to a better outcome for our days ahead. Terima kasih, thank you, and good afternoon.
(2021). The year Bali tourism stopped. 70% of the population of Bali depend on tourism. Bali has been devastated. But Bali believes tomorrow will be better.
Rumah Sakit Bali Mandara Provinsi Bali menjadi tempat lokasi kegiatan vaksinasi pertama di Bali.
Balinese cross arms for stronger economic recovery. Bali's COVID-19 vaccination rate is one of the fastest and highest in Indonesia. The first dose reached 106%. The second dose reached 97%. And the booster reached over 80%. Balinese thank for the vaccines received from multilateral cooperation that helps Balinese to start reopening Bali. (2022). The year Bali reopened. Bali became the destination to discuss G20's agenda as a strong multilateral cooperation under Indonesia presidency. G20's events and activities has started to make its positive impact to Bali. Balinese started seeing a significant increase in their economic activities.
Om Swastiastu. Terima kasih G20.
Matur suksema G20.
Terima kasih G20. Terima kasih G20.
We are ready to welcome you all. We are hoping for your positive action to help us all recover.